Hello, my name is Margaret. I'm the owner of Blue Monkey Tea Company in Pittsburgh, and I am welcoming you to this weekly presentation in a series called Tea Saturdays Live. And today I want to tell you about how to store, how to steep, and how to enjoy your tea in the best way possible. Do you have some tea at home? Do you have too much tea? Did you get some tea for holidays or for some other occasion and you have no idea what to do with that? Maybe you have too much tea, but wait, I don't think there is such thing as too much tea, right? No worry, if you have too much tea, no worries, because tea stores really well. Tea practically doesn't expire unless it gets moldy for some reason. But if it's well packed, if it's sealed and properly stored, the chances are that's still going to be good many years. Well, I wouldn't take a chance past maybe 5 years, but I've done it. I've had teas that were more than 5 years old. And tea doesn't really, like I said, expire. It's basically it will just lose freshness. It will become more stale as it loses the water content, moisture content, because even though tea is dry, leaf or tea that's inside the tea bag, there's always a tiny little bit, like up to 3% of water content, and that's what causes this tea to actually taste and to have aroma. If there was no water content at all, it wouldn't. Although some teas looks like they smell like nothing, but then once you start steeping them, surprisingly, the flavor and aroma come out. First, let's talk a little bit about buying tea. Because in order to enjoy tea, it's really a good idea to get good tea. And I always recommend getting tea from reputable source. Do a little bit of research. Of course, you're welcome to come here and shop here or shop from us online. I can assure you that we do our best to have good quality teas. I've been in business for 18 years, and we have over 350 loose leaf teas in the store, and we go through them pretty fast. I also have very good suppliers. I've developed a relationship with such companies as Metropolitan Tea Company from Canada, with Adagio. We have one German company, Develson Bulk, and a couple of other companies that I really appreciate the quality and freshness of their teas. They're also very honest. So, I know there's some companies that we can buy teas from. I usually go to World Tea Expo at least every couple years, and I make some contacts with other suppliers, and I'm always tempted to start buying tea from some other supplier, especially directly from China or Japan, India. But it's a little more complicated because there's a lot of rules and regulations, and in order to get good quality tea, I like to deal with established companies that already have all this in mind, and they are set up for proper acquiring, storing, and marketing. Maybe not so much marketing, but informing about the quality, the origins, and so on. But anyway, so buy from reputable sources, or do check the reviews for teas, but don't just go by somebody's gonna write, oh my gosh, this tea is amazing, it has this wonderful cherry chocolate truffle taste. Don't go for that, because first off, that means the tea was heavily flavored. So unfortunately, it's not going to be a natural flavor of tea. And also, a lot of times, the quality of the base, of the tea used for base for flavored teas is not so good. Not so good, because it's still going to be covered by the flavor, like this artificial flavor. There are good flavor teas, I'm not going into detail on this. I covered this in my other class. So look for, I believe it was a class on tea bags versus loose leaf teas. Look, if you're looking for flavor teas, look for word natural flavors. Natural flavors means, it doesn't mean necessarily that there's actually natural product like pieces of fruit, which actually a lot of our teas do have pieces of fruit in them, but it means that they use essential oils to flavor teas, which are identical and pure, the same exact composition as the natural product. So now if you see word flavors, only word flavors, that's not good. Stay away from those. It's not gonna kill you. They're still safe for consumption, but in general, when you opt for flavor teas, always try to look for teas which say natural flavors added. Ask questions when you buy from stores, or whether online or in person. Ask staff questions. Even prepare some questions, because if they know how to answer them, that means that they have the expertise, and they will be more likely to find tea for you that you will like, or recommend tea for you to try, and that might be much better option for you than, you know, just going and blindly picking up something just because it sounds good, right? I love fresh tea. I love pure teas. You probably know my favorite teas are black teas, but there's nothing better than tea that was just flown in, and tea that was just picked up from the tea garden. And unfortunately, it's really hard to get here. Can I have first flash Darjeeling from the back? Just one. There is one tea that we get every May. It comes from India, from Darjeeling, and it is so-called first flash Darjeeling. First flash means first peak of the season. And that tea, the reason why it's so good is because during dormant period, tea plants are not growing any leaves, but they accumulate all these nutrients, juices. Now, the first flash teas are actually flown here. Usually teas are, you know, transported by sea and other means, but this particular tea is flown here. So this is as fresh as it gets. I can't wait till next May. Sometimes we get them in April. And if you want, you can also opt for tea plantations here in US. And one of them is in Charleston, South Carolina. And the other one that's really becoming and growing very strong is called Great Mississippi Tea Company. I recommend those. You can even travel there and visit them and buy their teas straight from the field, almost, because there's some processing involved. Buy teas that you like. That's another thing. Like, especially when you're like tea beginner, don't like try to buy some strange teas that you're gonna drink a sip and then you're going to like say, well, that's it, I'm done with tea, I'm never gonna drink tea again. So opt for tea that you like, but don't be afraid to experiment. For example, this tea here, Jasmine Dragon Pearls. I know it's a little more expensive than most teas, but this tea is truly amazing. This is a pure, very clean jasmine flavor, but not flavor from any flavor. It actually comes from jasmine itself. Or maybe you want to try pu'er tea. It usually comes in a cake like this. It looks a little suspicious, but I know some of you already have this. Thanks, Paula. Appreciate. Samantha says, never too much tea. Melissa, I know you love Jasmine Dragon Pearls. Guys, you're funny. Um, so I'm just telling you how to enjoy tea today. So I said, don't try to drink teas that you're going to enjoy. Go for, if you don't necessarily drink pure green tea straight up, you why not get like peach, Niagara peach green tea or Sanchakiro cherry rose. It's marvelous. Use good utensils. Easy to use. That's another thing. Like, a lot of people will not drink tea because they're like, oh my goodness, this is so complicated. I have to put tea in there, open it, put tea in there. And yes, it's really not that hard, right? But make it as easy as possible, and then probably going to enjoy tea better, or not. Maybe you like it a little more complicated. There's a lot of fun with these infusers too, because they come in different shapes. Like, this is a leaf. It's cute. Isn't it nice for Valentine's? Or you can have a little duck infuser. It's gonna make tea drinking ritual more fun. I have a blue one like this. So we have a boy and a girl. Well, it doesn't have to be exactly that color anymore, right? This is very nice infuser too, because it's easy to clean and also allows leaves to open up. And it's very good for rooibos. That's another thing. A lot of people don't like loose leaf tea because for some reason they get some leaves in their infusion. And so using a nice tight infuser like this one will prevent leaves from going into your cup. You can also use these tea filters, paper tea filters. These are actually biodegradable and compostable. And that's another thing I want to mention quickly. If you have too much tea at home, don't throw it away. Tea makes great compost. And also used tea leaves. Tea bags, not so much, unless you know they're biodegradable, but you can still open them and use the tea from inside. It's a bag, but I got the first flash here from last year. Still good. It's from Rohini estate in India. So these are the also very easy to use tea filters. And this is nice infuser, but I don't want to make this class tea infuser class, although probably one day I will. So general rules, remember when steeping tea, depending on the type of tea, we're going to need different temperature, water temperature, different steeping time. That's pretty important, especially when it comes to green tea. Generally use water, filter water or spring water. Tap water is okay too, as long as it's, doesn't smell too strong, doesn't have too much chlorine in it. And do not use distilled water. That's a mistake. Distilled water is not going to produce a good cup of tea. It's going to be blah. Bring water to boil. The best way to actually boil water is an electric kettle. This kettle, I don't have a base with me. It's somewhere there, but don't worry about it. And this kettle actually has a temperature control, which makes tea steeping very easy, because you don't have to measure the temperature in a cup. You can just set up temperature for depending on the type of tea. Bring water to boil, but do not overboil. That's why electric kettles are better in this matter, because they shut off automatically as soon as water reaches this particular temperature. Measure proper amount of tea, because if you don't measure enough tea, it's not going to taste good. Or if you measure too much, it's probably going to taste super strong and bitter. So general rule is 2 teaspoons, and this is a tea measure, but you can just use regular spoon per mug. Cat mug, please, right behind you. No, left, go left. There we go. Meow, meow, meow. Average size American mug cup. So use about 2 teaspoons per mug like this. And 1 per cup. Of course, there are some teas that are bulkier than the other, so you have to take this into consideration, and especially when dealing with herbs such as chamomile, lavender, then you have to, although lavender is pretty strong, but like chamomile, there's white tea. White tea is very fluffy too, so you have to take this into account when you measure. You might want to use double volume, like maybe 4 of these. With black tea, you steep for 4 minutes, and temperature is super hot. So boil water all the way up, and measure 2 teaspoons per mug. Pour that hot water in, and steep for about 4 minutes. Actually, 4 minutes is good. If you go longer than 5, trust me, it's going to be bitter. With green tea, be very, very careful. You only steep for 2 minutes, and the water should be a little cooler. Green tea is like a fresh vegetable. You don't want to like burn it, scald it. So water should be of about 185 degrees. And if you don't have that electric kettle with temperature control, no worries. This is specific thermometer for beverages, but you can use any kitchen thermometer that you have, because I suspect that most of you are cooking now, especially during the pandemic, because a lot of us learn how to cook. I've learned how to cook a long time ago. My mom taught me. Thank you. My husband likes my cooking, right? I don't make pierogi, but I make a lot of other things. Thank you, Wendy. Wendy says composting tea is excellent for nitrogen in soil. Happy National Pie Day, Nancy says. We can have pie and tea today. Ooh, I want some pie. I have tea tiny, Kelly's asking. Wendy says, I love floral teas. Most like fruity teas though. Temperature, time, quantity of tea. Very important factors in making a good cup of tea. And I've talked about this on during other presentations. So if some of you hear it for like 10th or 20th time, I apologize for that. There are a couple different ways of steeping tea, and there are being called Western way, which is the way I was telling you about, and Eastern way. Eastern way. So let's talk a little bit about Gong Fu way of making tea. It's usually done by using a tea gadget called Gai Wan, which is generally a bowl, probably about 5 ounces capacity, with the lid and the saucer. In order to make tea in this Eastern way, we use more tea. We use about twice as much, or sometimes 3 times as much tea as we were using to make a mug of tea. Mug of tea is 2 teacups. I'm going to talk about grams. Pay attention, Americans. 2 grams, okay? To make a cup of tea like this, we use 2 grams of tea, which is about 1 teaspoon. If you want to measure tea in grams, it's a good idea to get a gram scale. To make a mug of tea, we'll use twice as much, which is about 4 grams, which is about 2 teaspoons. To make a Gai Wan, which is only 5 ounces, which is about the same amount as the teacup, we're going to double or triple the amount of tea that we would use for a cup, which is about 5, maybe even 6 grams of tea. This would be a recommended method of making tea for these rare, maybe a little more expensive teas like jasmine dragon pearls, or some oolongs like Kwanja milk oolong, or golden monkey. We have some teas on little saucers I'm going to show you in a minute. But the idea is to put more tea, place more tea in the gaiwan, and then a lot of times we'll do something called rinse. So imagine I have hot water here, and we're going to pour hot, or not so hot for, let's say, green tea, and then you dump it out. I usually have a special gongfu tray for this, so I don't have to dump it out on the table. But because it's a pretend, I'm going to dump it out. And now the leaves are open up, and you can smell the aroma and watch, inspect, enjoy the view. And then you pour another amount of water, fill it up, and steep short. Don't steep for 2 minutes or 4 minutes. 30 seconds, sometimes even less. And as soon as the time passes, you just pour your tea like this into a cup. Or if you have a guest, you probably have enough for 2 cups. This can be re-steeped quite a few times because it's more concentrated. Short steeps, more tea. That's the key to make tea in a gongfu Chinese Eastern way. Very good way to taste, enjoy rare teas. I think we're getting a tray with some teas here. Just for people who are not familiar with types of tea, I just want to do a quick review of different teas. Victoria was so helpful. She prepared those for me before class. And so we have white tea. White tea is, this particular white tea is made with just buds, the tips of the branch of tea plant, Camellia sinensis. But white tea can also consist of a bud and 1 or 2 leaves below. White tea, I'm not going to go into big detail on how teas are processed, but I just want to mention that white tea is a little tricky to steep because it has very light flavor. And I like to steep my white teas for in about 190 degrees water, or maybe even 200. I will still not use the hot, super hot water. And I steep my white tea for about 3 minutes. There's some different schools on that, but I enjoy white tea that's steeped a little longer and the water is a little warmer than usually recommended. But everybody's different, so you guys do your own experimentation. Now, next let's talk about green tea, which I already mentioned. Green tea is unoxidized tea. I have a sample of sencha here. Green tea is very good for you. Try to drink more green tea. A lot of antioxidants and other goodies. Green tea does not like hot water, so make sure water is cooler, only about 180 degrees, and steep only for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Or if you do gongfu style, it could be like 15 seconds. Pour it out. Do another steep, a little longer, 30 seconds. Make sure the water is still not too hot. Oolong tea is tea that's somewhere in between black and green. It's partially oxidized. It could be lighter, more so like green tea. This particular tea is Iron Goddess of Mercy, tea Kuan Yin, that we're showing. So it's a lighter type of oolong. Oolong tea, the average temperature of water should be about 190, but it depends. If it's a darker oolong like Formosa oolong, you're gonna use water that's a little hotter. And steep usually for about 3 minutes on average. What else we have? We have herbal teas here. I call it herbal, but that's actually fruit tea. This is Bingo Blueberry. It's not actual real tea, it's just so-called tea, and very nice, very pleasant, a lot of nice fruits in it, and herbs and fruit and herbal teas. You can steep much longer. You can steep 6 or even longer minutes, and use water that's pretty hot, like hot, pretty much boiling. There's another example of nice herbal tea made, of course, it's caffeine free. One of our favorites, one of the most popular ones, it's called Cold Comfort. There's ginger, lemongrass, licorice, and a couple other things, and it has like sweet citrus taste. Hi, Andrea. Okay. There's a couple other teas Victoria prepared for me. Okay, I have Benifuki, my favorite tea. It's a Japanese tea, black tea, which is unusual. This is Benifuki. And I also have purple tea. Purple tea, these are those teas that are like more unusual, unique, rare, that I still encourage you guys to try. And the best way to steep, make sure you observe those steeping rules to get the most out of them and to enjoy them. It's also a good idea to learn about tea. This is the purple tea. To read about tea ahead of time before you buy it, before you drink it, so you know what to anticipate, to what flavor, what aroma, some maybe like more fine notes, not so prominent. Sometimes you may have different taste in front of your mouth, and different taste in the back of your mouth. And don't forget to enjoy that echo, that aftertaste, finish that after you swallow, it fills you up the back of your throat. I'm trying to tell you how to enjoy those teas. And we have blooming tea. What fun it is. And we're going to show you one that I've steeped before. Blooming teas are made by hand. First they're grown, and leaves are tied up around the flower. So this particular one is called Longing Heart. It has like a jasmine flavor. And once you steep it, these are teas that open up in water. You have to use pretty hot water. And they have a flower inside. So these are pleasurable to not only to drink, but also to watch them bloom, especially in the middle of winter. How about that? There are a couple other, I want to cover briefly couple other ways of making tea. They're fairly easy. One of them is French press, which I know most people use for coffee, but you can also make loose leaf tea in French press. The same principle, you place your tea leaves inside the press, pour water, and then steep. When it's done, you push the plunger down. Hi, Leslie. Hi everyone. If I didn't say hi to someone, I'm saying hi now, and thank you for joining me for this class about storing, steeping, and enjoying tea. So once again, this is a French press. French press is great to use with small leaf teas like rooibos or maybe yerba mate. Very good. Also, you can make cold brew. Very, very nice cold brew in it too. One other gadget that's super easy to use is I don't know what the name, what is like general name, because different companies call them differently. This one is called Charcoal Magic, but Adagio has Ingenuity, and I know Tivana had them too. You place leaves here, water, steep, and then when it's done, you set up on the mug, and the tea strains inside the mug, while the leaves are kept above. And this is also great for getting most out of your tea because leaves have room to open up, room to roam, but also great for re-steeping because guess what? Later on you can just add water because a lot of teas can be steeped twice, 3 times or even more, especially green teas, oolongs, and white teas. Not so much with black tea. French press. Oh, iced tea. You probably all had iced tea, and I'm sure many of you even prefer iced tea than more so than hot tea, but even in winter. Making iced tea is super easy. You can make concentrated hot tea and just add ice to it. So this is called Takeya iced tea maker. Hey, red for Valentine. You brew half full of double strength hot tea, and then you fill it up with ice. Do this, and your iced tea is ready. I usually don't like drinking tea on the go, but of course, if you're commuting, or if you are in a boring seminar lecture. Yeah, Rose says you can also cold brew in Takeya. Absolutely right. You can fill it up all the way with cold water, keep it overnight. Probably best idea to keep it in the fridge, and then next day you have delicious, or several hours later you can have great iced tea. If you want to make tea on the go, this is one of the best travel mugs for loose leaf tea. It has a basket, and you fill this with tea, this with water, hot water. You steep like this. Then after time past 2-4 minutes or whatnot, you flip it back, and then the level of tea, especially after you take a couple sips, the water will be below the basket, so there's no over steeping. It also has a lock feature. Okay. Matcha. If I can have matcha bowl and a whisk and a frother. Just very quickly, I know some of you like matcha, or you want to start drinking matcha because it's a very concentrated green tea with a lot of benefits, a lot of antioxidants as well, one of the benefits. So you can, it's really not that hard. You can use either like a traditional bowl and a bamboo whisk, and I'm already doing this. Here you go. Thank you. You place, remember, matcha is a very concentrated tea, so you only use about half a teaspoon, and then you use maybe 3-4 ounces of water, like about half of this bowl full, and then you whisk. This is a special bamboo whisk called chasen. So this is a method used for centuries in Japanese tea ceremony, and you just whisk, but don't do this. It has to be straight. And drink. Or you can use an electric frother. Works really well too. Cool. Or you can even like add matcha to bottled water, shake it up and drink. Remember, the matcha is not going to extract like regular tea from tea leaves. You ingest everything, and if you leave it, either in a bowl or a bottle for a while, the matcha is going to drop to the bottom. But we also sell matcha in tea bags. And that brings me to another subtopic of today's presentation. Should we be using tea bags? Generally, if you want to enjoy tea and want to spend a little more time with tea, and you're okay with actually preparing tea from loose leaf, then go for the loose leaf, right? But if you just, don't feel like going through all this process, which is actually fun, then of course use tea bags. But this is matcha, but generally tea bags have much lesser quality tea. It's basically dust of tea, and usually heavily flavored. So a lot of people who switched from tea bags to loose leaf tea, they never go back because it's so much better, so much fresher, and cheaper too. If you do opt for tea bags, we do carry Republic of Tea and Stash, and we have a lot of nice British teas here from Taylors of Harrogate. And actually, if you are a black tea lover, if you like strong tea, I would totally go for this. This is called Yorkshire Tea, Yorkshire Gold. It's a blend of several different teas, and this is in tea bags, but it's going to make a really, really nice cuppa, especially with milk. To make tea more pleasurable, a lot of people like to add things to tea. Of course, like milk, honey, sugar. I like the Demerara sugar. It's that brown sugar, and sweetener, lemon. I used to love black tea, and I still do. Black tea with a slice of lemon. It's amazing. Or ginger. I just made a few weeks ago during presentation. I just brewed myself pure ginger extract, and I added lemon to it. Oh, it was amazing. Okay. Now, milk usually doesn't go well with green teas or fruit teas, and some people are afraid to use milk with Earl Grey. Okay, this is a topic for another time, and I actually had a session about Earl Grey a few weeks ago, so if you're interested in learning more about Earl Grey tea, I'm referring you to my class about Earl Grey. I was talking also about the Prime Minister of England. So black tea takes milk well, green tea not so much. But then you can make latte now, for example, matcha latte, chai latte. Well, chai is black tea. Some teas are perfect for milk, and some are not. How do we store tea? This is something that is a big part of this presentation. And the reason I want to talk about this in a little more detail is that it's a shame when you actually buy good quality tea and maybe spend a little more money, and then you don't store it well. And I told you in the beginning of this session that tea doesn't really go bad, meaning like it doesn't spoil, but it will gradually lose freshness, it will lose taste, it will become stale. And it's a shame to waste tea in this way, right? Store tea, the best way to store tea is in an opaque container, something like this, well sealed, or even vacuum sealed. And try to use container that in size matches the amount of tea that you usually buy. So if you buy 2 ounces of tea, which makes about 10-12 mugs of tea, usually people buy 2 ounces of tea if they want to try several different teas. It's a good trial size, so, to test the tea, to taste the tea. Most people will probably buy 4 ounces, and these tins hold approximately 4 ounces of tea. Most of the teas, like black teas, green teas. But if you it will only fit 2 ounces of chamomile, for example. The reason for matching the amount of tea with the space inside the container is that you don't want too much air in there, because air will oxidize your tea. It will cause it to become stale sooner. And do not store your tea in a refrigerator. This is such a misconception. The same thing with coffee. Refrigerator has a lot of moisture in it, and if you keep putting tea in and taking it out frequently, there's a condensation being created around your tea, and it will cause tea to deteriorate or even get moldy. Matcha, or tea that's packed, vacuum packed, it could be stored in a freezer or refrigerator. Speaking of, can I have a bag of Metropolitan tea? I want to show you guys how our teas are being delivered here and why they are so fresh and so good, because that's another thing about reputable companies that we get them from, that they not only source their teas from good sources, and I said source twice, but they also package them in a way that they preserve very, very well. Here you go. This is a bag of Ceylon tea called Court Lodge, from an estate called Court Lodge. And this, it's vacuum sealed, also nitrogen flushed before they placed it in there. Nitrogen will kill all the germs and anything that we don't want in the tea, and also will remove the oxygen from the bag. I know it sounds a little complicated, but if I didn't open this tea, it says here, best before, if unopened, year 2040. Oh, scary thought. Well, what is it, 19 years? Should I wait? Of course, once we open a bag like this, the air gets in there, and but we go through our teas so quickly. Thanks to you guys. Thank you so much for buying, drinking, recommending. Paula says, is it better to keep teas in a Ziploc and squeeze the air out? Yes, Ziploc is okay, Paula. It's just it's good for small quantities of teas, and the material that Ziploc bags are made of, it's safe. Yeah, squeeze the air out, definitely. Whether it's a Ziploc bag or a paper bag with a tab. Okay, Paula says, no, I wonder what was that about. What was I talking about? Oh, the year 2040, maybe. Enjoying tea. I wanted to finish this session with a few words about how to, once we get good quality tea, once we learn about the tea, and speaking of learning about teas, check out this book by James Norwood Pratt. It's called Tea Lovers, The Ultimate Tea Lover's Treasury. It's a very good educational book about tea. Of course, there's many different books out there. We sell this one. So once you learn about tea, once you purchase it from a good source and store it well, steep it properly, you might want to think about a few more things to actually enjoy this tea better. Have a favorite teapot. We got quite a few inquiries lately for these fancy, fine porcelain teacups and teapots, and I actually ordered some yesterday. I think I already posted them on our website, www.bluemonkeytea.com. Guess why? Because of that new show on Netflix called Bridgerton, which promotes drinking tea from fancy teacups, and people now staying home because of the pandemic. I guess they're tired of just wearing sweatpants and pajamas, so they start kind of living the life now. Tell me what you guys do. Who's wearing pajama pants or sweatpants right now? I'm wearing jeans. Oh, I'm making sound, but it's just from nature. But yeah, I've had days that I spend most of the day in my PJs. I can't do it here, so I'm usually dressed up. And people like to get a little more fancy and have more life at home, so drinking tea from lovely cup like this and maybe a teapot, or just nice, happy teapot with cats for cat lovers, or maybe glass. Favorite, like, I like cheerful colors because they make me happy. We have a lot of really nice tea sets in the store. You can check them out on our website. Leggings, Elizabeth says. Okay, leggings are okay. You can take your time. When you drink tea, do it more mindfully. Enjoy not only the taste, but also inhale the aroma. And then when you take a sip, try to identify notes, especially when you drink those pure, rare, unique teas. And when you're learning more about teas, just train your taste buds. It's a lot of fun, because tea that you may not have tasted much in the beginning, like Silver Needle, for example, although some people have extremely strong sensation from the first sip, but there are teas that you might start enjoying as you learn, as you train your taste buds to enjoy, to actually perceive the particular flavors and particular notes. And so you could do this more mindfully, have a little party, maybe do some virtual session, tea, afternoon tea with your friend or a few different friends, a whole group. But also socializing is a big part of the pleasurable tea taking, because even I was talking about Russian tea last week, where people gather around this big water heater called samovar, and they will drink tea and eat some sweets and some other snacks with. And it's not just about drinking tea, it's more so about socializing and having conversation. You would not believe how tea will stimulate your brain, and you will have a very nice social interacting to go with. This, use maybe teaware that's empty according to the mood, according to season. When you have some maybe Chinese teas, you might want to use Gaiwan to enjoy them more. There's so many more fun things you can do around tea. Not to mention eating cookies. We have biscuits from England. They're absolutely delicious. They call digestives, for example. Very good stuff to go with tea, because they're not overly sweet, so they will still enable you to taste your tea. But most people actually take them with black tea, and probably with milk in the British way. Let's have a little celebration with that tea. I think this is all for today. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And I just want to review things quickly. I talked about sourcing tea, about buying it from reputable places, learning about tea ahead of time so you will know what to expect and what to look for when you taste it, when you smell the aroma, about proper steeping, because that's a big issue with teas. You have to really go by rules here, especially with green tea, because you don't want to over steep it or steep it with hot water. You're not going to enjoy that. Use proper or various teaware, stuff that makes you happy. I know some of you have probably a lot of teacups, because I know you collect teacups or teapots or both. Maybe it's time to get those teacups out and start enjoying them. And learn about tea, store your tea properly, and I hope my presentation today will help in ensuring that tea not only will be consumed because it's a beverage, but also because it's a great pleasure. Thank you so much. This was Margaret from Blue Monkey Tea Company in Pittsburgh. I'll see you next week.